Today, we're going to do something pretty incredible. We are going to fundamentally shift how you view your own mind. You know, so many of us walk around carrying this incredibly painful, heavy feeling of just being broken. We think we're reacting poorly to the world, or we feel like our minds are constantly working against us. But what if I told you that your nervous system hasn't been malfunctioning at all? Over the next few minutes, we're going to completely flip that narrative. We are moving away from the idea of dysfunction, and we're diving straight into the absolute biological brilliance of your own survival.
Okay, let's jump right into this by contrasting two radically different ways we tend to view ourselves. Usually we look at our behaviors through what we could call the language of defect. This means we see our anxiety as a weakness, right? We see emotional shutdown as proof that we're broken, and we view perfectionism as some sort of pathology we need to cure. But modern trauma psychology reveals a truth that is so much more empowering. It's the reality of adaptation. Your nervous system isn't broken. It actually executed highly intelligent survival strategies. That anxiety you feel, that's intelligence. That exhausting perfectionism, that was protection.
So let's break this down in section 1, biology over authenticity. We're looking at the devastating dilemma of childhood.
Think about it. Human beings are born neurologically unfinished. We are entirely 100% emotionally dependent. And this biological reality means that a child literally cannot walk away from caregivers, even if those caregivers are frightening, emotionally inconsistent, or unsafe. The nervous system is hardwired to automatically prioritize the attachment bond with caregivers above absolutely everything else. Why? Well, because to a helpless child, connection doesn't just mean love. Connection literally equals survival.
And this leads us straight into what is honestly a devastating biological dilemma. Whenever a child's true self threatens that vital connection, a massive trade-off happens. Psychologist Nicole LePera captures this brilliantly. She calls it a consistent betrayal of the self for love. The nervous system realizes that to survive, to keep that life-saving connection to a parent or caregiver, it has to gradually shut down its own authentic emotional expression. It's a massive sacrifice that the child's biology makes without them even consciously realizing it's happening.
And these choices, they happen entirely on autopilot. If expressing your anger results in getting rejected, boom, your nervous system learns to suppress that anger. If showing your vulnerability brings harsh criticism, you learn to hide it real fast. You might become highly compliant just to prevent a parent from withdrawing their love. Or you might just decide to turn completely emotionally invisible. Basically, if expressing your true needs creates any kind of danger, the nervous system learns to automatically abandon those needs. It quietly decides exactly who you need to become just to stay connected and safe.
Which brings us to section 2, the phases of survival. Let's look at exactly how the nervous system adapted.
Now, your nervous system doesn't just pull these behaviors out of thin air. It creates them in direct response to the specific conditions it had to survive. A child growing up in a totally unpredictable environment doesn't malfunction when they become hypervigilant later in life. They adapt because being vigilant kept them safe. Emotional volatility in a home leads to appeasement. Conditional approval bursts perfectionism. The symptoms we carry around today are essentially a roadmap of the exact environment that required them in the first place.
Take hypervigilance, for instance. We actually live in cultures that often reward this, right? Because from the outside, it looks like deep responsibility or intense ambition. But the absolutely crucial point about chronic anxiety and overthinking is that it is a highly successful adaptation. Your body organized itself around anticipating danger, scanning a room for subtle tone changes, listening for footsteps, tracking mood shifts. And while that is brilliant for surviving an unpredictable home, it is physiologically exhausting in adulthood. Your autonomic nervous system just keeps cycling through stress activation, literally never allowing you to fully rest.
Then there's people-pleasing. This gets misunderstood all the time as just being too nice or, lacking a backbone. But when we actually define what's known as the fawn response, it reveals something so much deeper. It isn't generosity. It is a profound, deep-seated survival reflex driven by the absolute terror that being your authentic self might cause someone to abandon you. You become an absolute expert at emotional monitoring and diffusing conflict. Because a long time ago, your nervous system learned that any disagreement would cost you dearly.
And this perfectly illustrates the trap of perfectionism. Again, from the outside, it looks like discipline, but it follows a very specific fear-based loop. Step 1, you detect that your safety and approval are highly conditional. Step 2, you attempt absolute flawlessness just to prevent criticism. Step 3, you achieve it and you get this brief wave of temporary relief. But step 4, and this is the trap, you remain emotionally unsafe. Your nervous system learned that exceptional performance reduces danger, sure, but because this entire strategy is built on a foundation of fear, the success itself never actually feels secure. You're just constantly avoiding failure. You aren't actually inhabiting safety.
And then we have what is perhaps the most misunderstood adaptation of them all, dissociation. This isn't always some dramatic psychological break. Usually it's everyday emotional numbing. It's going blank during an argument or feeling completely distant from your own life. And listen to me, going blank is not a failure. Dissociation is one of the nervous system's most intelligent, exhausted responses. When physical escape from overwhelming emotional pain is literally impossible, the nervous system pulls an emergency lever and escapes psychologically. It turns down the dial on your conscious emotional engagement just to keep you functioning.
All right, moving into Section 3, Healing Through Understanding. Let's talk about the journey from survival to safety.
So the real tragedy in all of this is that the nervous system rarely unlearns these strategies on its own. It keeps using that exact same wiring long after the original dangerous environment is gone. And that turns the adaptations that literally saved you in childhood into invisible prisons in your adulthood. Think about how many times you stared at the ceiling at 2 a.m. and asked yourself this exact question. For decades, when you felt drained by anxiety or endless people-pleasing or emotional numbness, your adult mind judged those behaviors. You looked at your own survival skills and you asked this incredibly heavy, shame-filled question, what is wrong with me?
But modern trauma psychology completely flips the script. We are shifting the entire paradigm to this liberating question instead. What happened that made this adaptation necessary? Just pause and think about how different that feels. It fundamentally changes the emotional meaning of your symptoms. It takes you completely out of self-condemnation and opens the door to profound, genuine self-understanding.
Now, to be absolutely clear, understanding your biology isn't about romanticizing your suffering. Not at all. We have to acknowledge that these survival patterns are holding you back today. Hypervigilance erodes your ability to rest. People-pleasing destroys your personal boundaries. Perfectionism completely exhausts your nervous system. Dissociation limits your ability to experience real intimacy. These unconscious strategies, while brilliant back then, are directly interfering with your ability to live freely and authentically right now.
But here is the undeniable truth, the one thing you really need to take away from this. You absolutely cannot heal from adaptations that you are still actively treating as personal failures. Shame rarely heals adaptation. It just doesn't work. True healing only begins when you recognize that your nervous system was simply trying to protect your life with the absolute best tools it had available at the time. Your body chose protection over authenticity, because back then, protection was literally a matter of life and death. So as we wrap up this explainer, I really want you to just sit with this realization. You survived. Your brilliant, incredible biology made sure that you made it to today. But the deepest, truest form of healing is slowly teaching your nervous system a truth that it simply couldn't afford to believe back then. Survival is not the same thing as safety. So I'll leave you with this to ponder. Now that you finally understand the sheer intelligence of your own survival, are you ready to teach your body that it's actually safe enough to be fully, authentically human?
Thank you for watching. If something in this resonated with you, then you're already closer than you think. If you're ready to go deeper, there's a link below to my book, The Survival Self: How Childhood Adaptation Becomes Adult Identity, and How to Finally Live Beyond It. This isn't theory, it's a framework you can actually use. Tap the link below and step into it.